Micro middle manager Rob Thomson, Mr. Analytics Rob Thomson. Yes, the Phillies stunk it up again yesterday, but we're not going to start the show with the Phillies. We'll probably talk Phillies for a good portion of time today. But Mr. Devin White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers decided he wants to be traded. So we're going to start the show with some Eagles football right here on Trending in the AM on Philadelphia Sports Network. We start in 30 seconds.
Fourth and goal.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live across all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. If you want to get interactive with the show today, head over to the Philadelphia Sports Network YouTube page. Make sure you hit the like button on the video, the subscribe button on the channel, turn notifications on. It's one of the best places to get interactive with the show, to drop your comments, thoughts, questions. We're talking Phillies, and we're talking Devin White today. If you're watching on the Twitter page, we cannot see your questions or your thoughts or your comments. You got to head over to YouTube or Facebook to watch the show and be interactive. I am your host here at Trending in the AM on Philadelphia Sports Network, Phil Stifle. You can always shoot me a follow on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge. And we got lots to talk about today. I mean, I really am glad the whole Devin White trade potential possibility request out of Tampa came about, because otherwise we'd be starting the show again for the 900th straight day talking Phillies and Rob Thomson. But we don't have to start the conversation there. We could start with some football talk for a change, which is fantastic, which is great. And it's something that really excites me because we haven't talked football much lately. We haven't talked Eagles. The draft is, let's say, the 12th. We're about 2 weeks out from the draft. So we can start building up to the big draft day here really soon. So it's great to have something else to talk about. But don't worry, Phillies fans. We will bitch. You will hear me bitch and moan about the Phillies here very soon on this show. So Devin White, all pro team 2, Pro Bowl linebacker, 25-year-old elite linebacker of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, former Super Bowl champion Devin White, announced yesterday. Well, the rumor was announced. The rumor was there, but the formal announcement from the media that Devin White has formally asked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be traded, and he wants out. Tampa's probably going to go through a bit of a rebuild phase. So somebody like Devin White, he's on the last year of his rookie deal, doesn't want to be there anymore. That's fine, whatever. And of course, with the Eagles having lost Kazir White, T.J. Edwards, and a bunch, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, have an obvious need at linebacker. And so instantly the Eagles, and with Howie Roseman and his wheeling and dealing capabilities, instantly become at the forefront of this trade rumor, this trade, option. We've got the assets, we've got the financial ability this year, and a need at the position. So everybody wants to talk about, is Devin White going to be a future Eagles linebacker? And there's two things you've got to look at at this. One, what would you trade for him to get him here? What would you pay him? Because you're going to have to give him an extension, just like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Or the other side of it, what would Howie trade for him? And B, will you be willing to accept the fact, Howie Roseman that is, that if you're going to give up the assets to get him, you might have to invest in the linebacker position. This is the thing. The Eagles and Howie Roseman, for as much as they've grown as a front office, as a GM over the last couple of years, the core values of Howie Roseman and this Eagles organization have remained the same. Build in the trenches, the offense and defensive line. Find elite playmakers, wide receiver. Find a great quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and then build out from there. Very rarely do the Eagles invest in safeties, linebackers, running backs. They're just not positions that this organization has valued at a high level. I mean, Kazir White, TJ Edwards, it's not like they were big name free agents or draft picks that we brought in here. They were guys on 1-year deals. And TJ Edwards was an undrafted free agent that got brought in here that in 2 years ascended to the role of starter and became a semi-elite. I don't want to call him an elite, but a semi-elite free agent, that had some options. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson became a borderline elite safety, not the elite in the Jesse Bates range, but he got to the point where he was a free agent and commanded he thought he commanded some money. He didn't, obviously, with the 1 year, $6 million or $8 million deal he signed in Detroit. But it wouldn't have been hard for Howie to give him the money to make him happy here. But Howie Roseman just doesn't value certain positions the same as others. So that's the problem. And he was willing to trade. I mean, I know we didn't trade much for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It was a 5th-round pick, 4th-round pick, whatever it may be. But we were willing to let him walk in free agency. The question is, getting Devin White here in Philly first and foremost, you're going to have to make a trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And what are you willing to part with to get him? Knowing that an extension is needed, or if you can't work out the extension, he walks in the offseason. And maybe you get a comp pick or whatnot, and Howie loves getting those comp picks and stuff like that. So we know how that all works out. That's why we have like 7,000 5th-round picks next year. So what's it going to take to get Devin White here in Philly? Not what would Howie give up. What would it take? And Tampa's in a rebuilding stage. They've got the 19th pick in the draft this year. They have a lot of holes. They got a lot of issues on that team. Tom Brady going now. It's time to reset, refresh. And, you see the cornerback from Detroit, the former third overall pick, got traded for a 5th-round pick yesterday. But he's kind of not in the same class or category as Devin White. You see what we gave up for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, still not same class. Then you look at somebody like A.J. Brown. And we gave up a 1st-round pick for A.J. Brown last year, an elite guy. I would say what we gave up for A.J. Brown, level of this league. Like A.J. Brown was one of the upper echelon wide receivers. Devin White's one of the upper echelon linebackers. And real quick before we continue this, I mean, Devin White last year had 124 tackles, 8 for a loss. He had 5.5 sacks. So in his 4 years, he's got almost 21 sacks. He's got an interception. He's got 6 forced fumbles. He's a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro Team 2 in 2020. He's healthy most of the time. He played all 17 games each of the last 2 years. So what are you willing to part with? We have picks 10 and 19. We got a 2nd and 3rd round pick, and then we have a bunch of 7th round picks. So we don't have a lot of assets this year. We've got 12 draft picks on the books next year. So the question is, what are you willing to part with? If A.J. Brown, and now it's a playmaker position, a position that Howie values, costs the 18th pick, plus a $100 million extension, you're not going to trade the 10th overall pick for Devin White, but would it take, and I'm not saying this is what Howie would offer, I'm saying would this get the job done, is would you trade the 10th pick for their 19th pick and Devin White? And it's a crazy thought. It's moving 9 places back. You still end up with 2 first-round draft picks to continue to build out this team. It addresses a position in need. It gives Tampa a position to move up to 10, gets them closer to maybe drafting a future quarterback for the team, or if Jalen Carter's there or whatnot. And that's the other problem with this whole, this is the thought process I'm at. It might take this type of a deal to get it done. But if Jalen Carter falls to 10, is Jalen Carter at 10 more valuable than Devin White and the 19th pick? Like that's what you kind of got to think about there. Now I know there's people that'll say they don't want Devin White because or Jalen Carter because of the off the field issues and stuff like that. But Jalen Carter is an elite prospect that's got potential to be one of the best players in this draft when it's all said and done. Now Howie, I don't think would do that. I don't think Howie would give up the 10th pick for 19 and Devin White. I keep confusing Devin White and Jalen Carter, the names. They just keep blending together in my head here. I don't think he would do that. That's just me personally, my thinking. But would you consider 10 for 19 and Devin White if they throw in a future pick, a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick? Maybe that makes it a little bit more enticing to Eagles fans. I don't know. Maybe that makes it more enticing to Howie Roseman. You also got to think of the salary cap implications. He's going to get $11.7 million this year plus the extension. Now, we have, if I remember correctly, 18 or 19 million under the cap right now. So you can work out some kind of extension with him. Probably front load the contract so it hits this year mostly on the cap and less in future years. There's ways to maneuver the cap and the money, in my opinion. But what is it worth? Like, I was sitting there and I'm like, I would give up the 2nd-round pick for Devin White. I would give up the 3rd-round pick for Devin White. Hell, I would give up the 2nd-round pick this year and another pick next year for Devin White. The question is just, would I want to part with number 10, even if we get number 19 back for Devin White? And that's something that I think that's what it would take. There's going to be a market for Devin White. He's 25 years old. He won't be 26 till after the Super Bowl next year. So he literally just turned 25. He's an elite playmaking linebacker. He's fast as hell. He does everything you want in a modern linebacker. You pair him with Nakobe Dean, it's great, but there's going to be a lot of teams with a lot of assets that could use Devin White. So the question is, would Howie outbid these other teams for Devin White's services? Now, I know Devin White, tweeted something out or shared something out on Instagram or wherever it was about Greedy Williams, our new depth cornerback, new depth slot cornerback that, they used to be buddies. They played at LSU together. Maybe they were roommates. I don't know. They're close. So maybe Devin White sees the Eagles and is going to force the hand to come to the Eagles, which if he wants to come to Philly and he's telling Tampa, I want to play in Philly, and he's forcing that hand there, then that maybe gives Howie a little bit more leverage. Maybe he doesn't have to trade 10 for Devin White and the 19th pick. Maybe he could trade the 30th pick. Would you trade the 30th pick straight up for Devin White? I mean, again, like I said, I don't think Howie would. But the problem is, I think a 2nd or 3rd-round pick is worth it for him. But the question is, because of the amount of interest in this player, you're going to have to make an attractive package. And if you're willing to trade the 18th pick for A.J. Brown, why wouldn't you be willing to trade the 30th pick for Devin White? I don't know. It's something that thinks, because you think about it, you get the 10th pick and the 30th pick this year, and you got 2 2nd-rounders next year. Would 2 2nd-rounders get it done? One this year and one next year? On a team that's trying to rebuild? 2nd-round picks are not going to be at the front end of the 2nd round. They're going to be at the back end of the 2nd round. But would you trade 2 seconds for them? I would. That's how elite it is. But see, the thing is, like, everybody knows that I love the interior line play, offense and defense, that you build through the trenches. I agree with Howie's philosophy there. I always have agreed with that. But I've also agreed that linebacker play is more important than Howie puts forward. You only have 2 on the field most of the time anymore, sometimes only 1. Having someone like Devin White in the middle of that line, in the middle of that defense, would make a huge difference. A huge, huge difference. Now, the only other issue is Devin White's more of a downhill, attack the line, attack the quarterback, attack the backfield type linebacker. Does Devin White even fit into the scheme that Sean Desai is going to want to run? We talk about all the time about the lack of blitzing of our last few defensive coordinators. Well, Sean Desai blitzes even less than the last 2. Maybe less than the last 2, Jim Schwartz and Jonathan Gannon combined. So, that being said, do you even want Devin White here? Because Devin White's not really a drop back in coverage linebacker. I mean, he can do it. He's got the speed to do it. Let me see here. He's had a few passes defended each year, 5 last year, 3. He's had 15 in 4 years. So he's got 1 interception his rookie year. So, I mean, I guess he can drop into coverage. But I think he's more of with all the tackles for losses, all the sacks you see, he's more of a downhill, linebacker, guy that's going to get behind the line of scrimmage, break up things in the backfield. Is that what Sean Desai wants? Is that what Sean Desai needs? I mean, we can't go in with Nakobe Dean and whoever that other guy that I can't remember his name because he was so meaningless of a signing. It was a depth linebacker signing. They can't be our starting linebackers. But with what Sean Desai wants to run, with Howie Roseman's value on the linebacker position, is Devin White even worth the investment? And that, I think, is as good of a question as what would you trade for Devin White? Would he fit the scheme? Now, some will say Devin White is just so elite. You find a way to get him on your team and you rework the scheme slightly to make it work for him. That works. I mean, and that theory is pretty valid in my opinion. I wouldn't see why you wouldn't want to, try to rework things a little bit to fit Devin White there. Having a great player like Devin White could mask some of the weaknesses we have at safety. I mean, you go get Devin White, your only weakness on defense now is depth on the line and safety. If you get Jalen Carter and Devin White, wow, now there's no weaknesses except for safety on this defense. People crushed Jonathan Gannon and the Eagles defense last year because of the lack of blitzing, some of the big plays they gave up, but they were still a top-tier defense overall. It just wasn't the flashy defense Eagles fans want. People still live in the past of wanting that Rob or Jim Johnson smash mouth blitz 900% of the time defense. That's not just the Eagles. That's just not the way of the NFL anymore. You look at all the blitz-heavy teams, they weren't the teams playing in the Super Bowl. The teams that play in the Super Bowl or make it close to the Super Bowl are teams that don't give up a lot of big plays and create turnovers. And that's what the Eagles do. And that's what the Eagles did. They still got plenty of sacks. I mean, hell, they almost set the NFL record for most sacks in a season. So as long as you have an elite front line, which the Eagles did, you don't need to blitz. So the question is then, again, do you add Devin White to that mix of getting after the quarterback, clogging up that line, and then you have your 4-down linemen and Devin White doing what they do, and then you've got 6 other guys, not Hassan Reddick, dropping back into coverage to not give up the big plays, not let the ball go over your head. I think you find a way to make Devin White work. It's just a matter of, we say Howie Roseman doesn't value any position, or X position or Y position. But Howie Roseman in the last 2 or 3 years has really changed. He has. I mean, he's gone out and drafted Alabama players. He's gone out, made bold moves on draft day for an A.J. Brown, something that old Howie would never have done. He's locking up these guys early, making bold moves like James Bradbury, that extension, Darius Slay, keeping him around. Howie Roseman has evolved as a general manager. So maybe Howie Roseman sees Devin White there and realizes, yeah, that's not what we're used to doing. That's not what we used to do. But this is an elite talent here. So he calls the Tampa GM and says, what gets this job done? Now, again, I think there is some connection there that Devin White wants to play on the. First off, not just the Greedy Williams connection with Devin White, but also just the fact that the Eagles are the gold standard, if you want to use that term, of the NFC. You want to get Devin White here, but Devin White might also want to come here. So again, where else does I was reading an article a few minutes ago on I forget which site it was on before the show went live about teams that might be interested in Devin White. And names like Houston were on this team. There were names on this team, but not teams that are this close to winning the Super Bowl. Devin White comes to Philly. He's got a chance in his first 5 years to win 2 Super Bowls. One with Tampa and then one next year with the Eagles. And that also goes into the fact that the Eagles should be all in this year. Getting Devin White, even if you can't work out the extension, puts you one step closer to getting back to the Super Bowl next year. And I think that's important. I talk about it all the time on the show. Timing in sports. The timing for the Eagles to be all in is right now. Going and getting Devin White to be the anchor at linebacker in the middle of this defense, that's going all in. And again, you've got Nakobe Dean ready to slide into one of those starting linebacker positions. But do you want Nakobe Dean in his second year, having hardly played in his first year, to be the top linebacker on a Super Bowl team? Or do you go get Devin White to play next to Nakobe Dean, take some of that pressure so you're easing Nakobe Dean into the starting rotation? He'll start, but he won't have all the pressures of the linebacker core all on his shoulders. I think there's a lot that goes into this. And if I'm Howie Roseman, and if I've got my GM cap on, I am spending a lot of time yesterday and today on the phone with Tampa. What will it take? But again, if it comes down to, and I really truly think that this is what it would take. I'm not saying I would do this. I'm not saying Howie would do this. But I really think it would take the 10th pick for Devin White and the 19th pick. I think that would get the job done. The question is, would you do it? And not just would you do it, would Howie do it? Would Tampa do it? Would that be enough? But the problem is you do that ahead of time. You make that move ahead of time. You trade today or tomorrow. Pick 10 for Devin White 19. You make that move now. And then all of a sudden draft day comes around. All of a sudden you start to see Jalen Carter fall. Are you going to be kicking yourself in the ass because you let Jalen Carter go to Tampa at 10 because he was on the board? I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about that because I know how everybody feels about Devin or Jalen Carter. But I just think he's going to be too hard of a prospect to pass up on. And I know we want wide. I talk about wide receiver, or Bijan Robinson or all these other players in the first round of the draft. But again, we're all in right now. And Devin White in midnight green would put us that much closer to repeating as NFC champions, as getting back to the Super Bowl. Yeah, we just got to go get him. And you worry about the cost later. You worry about the draft. Howie Roseman, for all the praise he gets as a cap managing genius or whatever people say about him, you know what his biggest elite skill is? It's not the cap management. He's got one cap management move: kick it down the road, and that's why we're always one of the top teams in dead cap money every single year, because he keeps kicking money down the road, and that's fine. It's working for him. But his elite of elite skill set is trading, making trades. You look at all the trades we've made for Darius Slay, for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, for anybody, A.J. Brown. He negotiates with other GMs better than anybody I've ever seen. Maybe in Philly sports, period. I mean, think about all the big trades over the years. Pat Gillick and Ruben Amaro made some big trades, gave up prospects in baseball. Daryl Morey made one big trade to get James Harden, but I think that was kind of two desperate teams having to make a move. Like, over the last 10, 15 years, has any team been able to pull off the moves that Howie Roseman has? And the answer is no. I really don't think there is. And I have the confidence that if it would take moving some of these first-round picks, maneuvering these first-round picks to get Devin White, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, no questions asked, because he makes you your elite defense even more elite right now. You've got the window of opportunity to make and win a Super Bowl right now. You do it. Now, do you do it with the understanding that you could lose him if you can't extend the contract? I still do it. You figured it out with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You can figure it out with Devin White too. You trade, you get elite players in here, they leave, you get the comp pick, rinse and repeat next year. If you make the trade for Devin White but can't extend him now, you'll worry about that next year. We did it with Chauncey Gardner last year. Do it with Devin White this year. You just keep going all in 1 year at a time. Now, eventually that could backfire. Eventually that could go to a point where, we might have a dark time for a year or two in Eagles history. But I'm willing to take that chance because I'm all in right now. You need to be all in right now. I just think it's really interesting that he's available. I think it's really interesting that the Eagles have the opportunity to add such an elite playmaker to their defense. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I would trade the 30th pick. I don't know if I would trade the 10th pick straight up for Devin White. I think that's too much. Now, I would trade the 10th pick for Devin White and other stuff, possibly. But you also got to think, if I keep bringing up the scenario of 10 for White and 19, which I don't think that gets it done. I don't know if that gets it done on either side. It just seems weird that they just want that 10th pick, I think, is what the rumor mill says. They want to be in the top 10 Tampa. Whether it's for Jalen Carter or whether it's for a quarterback or to move from 10 up even further to get a quarterback. Tampa might be one of those teams that actually is that might be the actual game plan for Tampa. Trying to get in the top 5 or 6 for one of these quarterback prospects. Now, I don't want to talk about they're not going to get up for C.J. Stroud or any of the top 2 or 3, but there are some guys there. Will Levis, maybe they're looking at one of these guys. Maybe they're looking for ways to get up further in the draft. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the plan. And remember, just because we trade the 10th pick doesn't mean Howie doesn't have a top 10 pick or something like that. We've seen that before where he's traded back, then traded back. What was it, the Devontae Smith year? We traded back, then we traded back up, and we maneuvered here and there. We picked up a future extra first-round pick. Like, the maneuvering of Howie Roseman with draft picks via the trade market is something that's he does a master class of it every single year. So if he trades 10 for Devin White and other picks, it's not like if somebody he really wants starts to fall, it's not like he doesn't have 12 draft picks next year to move back up to get these guys. Maybe you trade 10 for 19, and then you take Bijan Robinson at 19. And then maybe Nolan Smith or something like that at 30. I mean, these are all viable options on the table right now. And all these options and thoughts are probably rolling through Howie's head right now. Let me tell you something. It's 8:57 in the morning on Wednesday, April 12th. If Howie Roseman's watching this show right now, turn off your computer and go call Tampa and get the ball rolling. Let's get this done. Let's not let it drag out till draft day. Let's not let another team swoop in and offer something that we can't match. Just go and get it done. And I am saying it one final time. I am all in on the Eagles this season. And if that means trading whatever it takes to get Devin White here, I'm for it. No questions asked. It's just, is Howie Roseman for investing like that into a linebacker. And that's really what, if Devin White goes somewhere else, well, he will go somewhere else. When Devin White goes to another team not named the Philadelphia Eagles, it's not because Howie Roseman couldn't get the job done or couldn't get the deal done. He just couldn't get the deal done to what he equates to the value of a linebacker. I mean, you think about it. It's not like TJ Edwards signed like a $60 million deal. He signed, what, 22, 23 million over 3 years, only like 16 or 17 million guaranteed to go to the Bears. That just shows how little he values the linebacker position. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying TJ Edwards was worth that much or worth more or less or whatnot. I'm just saying it's not like he had to break the bank to keep TJ Edwards in Midnight Green. And I'm okay with that because, again, most of you disagree. I didn't think TJ Edwards was as great as people thought. He was just one of the better linebackers we've had in recent memory. And the story of him coming from undrafted free agent to getting that kind of a contract, that's what it is. Think about it. Roquan Smith, Baltimore, what did they give him in his extension? A 5-year, $100 million for a linebacker? Howie's not going to do that. He's not going to commit $100 million to a linebacker. Not long term. Especially with the Jalen Hurts contract looming. Especially. So, you make this trade for Devin White, you go all in now, and you might lose him at the end of the year. And I'm okay with that because I'm all in 2023. I want the Super Bowl in 2023. That's what I want. You worry about the rest later. That's Howie's MO. That's Howie's way, how he does business, and I'm okay with that. I just don't see them giving the long-term extension equal to what the 2 or 3. I mean, we've seen between $80 and $100 million contracts given out to multiple linebackers in the last year. There is zero chance Howie would give Devin White $80 or $100 million. Zero chance. I don't care if he's only 25. There's no chance he does that. Not when you got the Jalen Hurts contract extension coming, and then in a year or two you're gonna have the Devontae Smith extension coming. You got it's just not going to happen. But I'm still willing to invest the draft capital to get him here for 1 year. Absolutely. And call me crazy, but I'm doing it. And I'm going all in to go get Devin White. That's what I'm doing. No questions asked. Get it done. That's that. I mean, the draft is coming up soon. And before the Devin White news, we were going to still talk Eagles in the draft today. We were going to talk about the Jalen Carter situation some more, Bijan Robinson, Gibbs, the other running back, and what the Eagles could do. But we're going to continue to stretch that conversation out. We still got 2 weeks till the draft. I'll bring the draft back up in future shows and stuff like that. But we're just going to continue to monitor this Devin White situation. And this news broke pretty late yesterday afternoon, so it's not like there was a lot of talk or time to really digest this or get in with the reports on what might happen. So as today unfolds, tomorrow unfolds, we'll learn more and more about this Devin White situation and what his future holds and where in the NFL. Well, I'll be curious to see if the rumor mills keep it going with him in Philly. And I'll be curious to see what some of these beat reporters, these know-whos that are all over it, what they think the value is. But again, I'm going all in, making whatever move is necessary to make sure Devin White is in midnight. Not Kelly, midnight green next year. Again, yes, I hate the Kelly green. I'm all for keeping midnight green around always. Yes, that's just me. That is just me. Anyway, we're going to reset here for a second. This is Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Make sure you like, you subscribe, turn notifications on all social media platforms. You get interactive with the show on the YouTube page here. I'd greatly appreciate that. We're going to switch the colors. We're going to switch the colors of the banner at the bottom. Yeah, we'll go with a little darker red. There we go. I like that red. That's a good red right there. Red. That means it's time to talk to Mr. Micro Middle Manager, to talk to Mr. Michael Scott. I mean, Rob Thomson, your Philadelphia Phillies manager, who literally goes into his office every day, types into his computer, puts his password in, says, all right, computer, tell me what the lineup should be today. And that's how he writes his lineup. That's how he must write his lineup. Look, last night, terrible game for the Phillies. 8-4 loss to the Marlins. Aaron Nola got roughed up again. We'll talk about Aaron Nola in a minute. Do we have an Aaron Nola problem? Because we do. But I want to start with the Rob Thomson. You want to stick to the Eagles for a second? We can get this King Oliver. Curious, what's the issue with Nakobe Dean? And placed him at starting spot the few times I've seen him play. I agree with you 120,000%, King Oliver. Nakobe Dean is starting next year. There is no problem with Nakobe Dean. The problem is the rest of the linebacker depth around him. You got some back-end backup guys that are going to be starting next to him. Is Nakobe Dean an inside guy, an outside guy? We don't know yet. The Eagles seemed, when he was on the field, the limited time he was, that he played on the outside, not the inside. So getting Devin White for the middle of the line, the linebacker core, and having Nakobe Dean on the outside seems to make more sense. I think Nakobe Dean is going to be a stud. Once he gets that opportunity, he's going to get that opportunity this year. There's zero doubt about it. He is a starting linebacker on this team. But I don't know if I want him and Sean Bradley or him and Davian Taylor or him and that other guy that I don't even want to know his name that we signed because he's so not good that I don't want to learn his name. Hell, I hated Eric Wilson when we brought him in a few years ago. Eric Wilson would be better than the guy they brought in. So there's no problem with Nakobe Dean. It's that the starting linebacker spot opposite of him is so weak right now that Devin White would instantly elevate this defense to another level. And that's why we're talking about Devin White there. Good morning, my man, Mitch. Hope you're doing well this morning. We're trying to transition from Eagles, but if you guys want to keep talking Eagles, if you put the questions or the thoughts up there, I will continue to dive into them. But while we wait for more Eagles questions, I'm going to give you my thoughts on Rob Thomson, the micro middle manager. I see like Office Space, a guy that just sits at a desk, punches in some things in the computer, print out, pull off the perforated things on the side and hand it in, and that's what your lineup is. Because again, the day after scoring 15 runs against Sandy Alcantara, the reigning Cy Young winner, you completely flipped the lineup again. I know, tough lefty for the Marlins pitch last night. But that does not mean Brandon Marsh does not start. That does not mean to put Pache in there. That does not mean to take Bryson Stott, who has a hit in every single game this season, from the leadoff spot where he performed well for one night, and put him all the way down the 8-hole. That doesn't mean take Kyle Schwarber out of the 3 or 4-hole, your power hitting spot. Move him up to the 2-hole again. It does not mean that you've got to play. What was this lineup last night? Harrison in the 6-hole. All right, you want to bench Jake Cave for a day because of the tough lefty, and Jake Cave hit a home run yesterday or the other night, but that's fine. But Josh Harrison in the 6-hole? Really? You're going to put Bryson Stott in the 8-hole, but Josh Harrison in the 6-hole? Like, the way this lineup was constructed, I put it out there yesterday, it wouldn't have been hard to build a strong lineup yesterday. But you're not putting Pache instead of Marsh in there, and you're not putting Stott in the 2-hole or the 8-hole. You're just not. It makes zero sense whatsoever the way he constructed this lineup. And let me tell you something. I'm going to say it bold and loud as can be. The Phillies, with Rob Thomson managing this team the way he is right now, not only will not make it back to the World Series, but will not make it back to the playoffs this year. There is a Rob Thomson problem on this Phillies team. He is not going to get fired. He is going to be here for the full season. I know that. You know that. Everyone knows that. But Rob Thomson won't be the manager next year on this team. Rob Thomson gets that 1 year of freedom because of getting this team to the World Series last year. But Rob Thomson is not a Major League Baseball manager. He's not. And as long as he stays in this position, the Phillies are going to underachieve. There, I'm saying it. I'm done. Rob Thomson is not a manager in baseball. But we still got, we've 11 games into the season now, so we still got 151 games to go. So what can Rob Thomson do to be better? He can start relying on his instinct and his gut and less on what the computer spits out. Every time I criticize him, somebody somewhere on Twitter says, well, there's the statistic XYZ says XZY. Well, that's overthinking things. And that's what Rob Thomson's doing. He's overthinking things so much right now. I mean, you just go from 15 runs. You knew there was going to be a little bit of a run drop off from to last night. They were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position last night. Again. 1 for 10. You had another base running blunder. Bryson Stott, you're down 4-1. You got men on base. Bryson Stott comes up and gets the lone hit. Drives in 2 runs. But then runs through first base, gets picked off of first base. Now, I'm going to give Bryson Stott credit for coming up with a clutch hit because that's what we need. But then the fundamentals of knowing how to run the bases backfire. You had a situation where Bryson Stott got on base with 1 out. Christian Pache, Puche, whatever his name is, comes up, tries to lay down a bunt, and pops out. Let me tell you something. Brandon Marsh could have popped out there too. There's no reason for Christian Pache, Puche, Parche to be in the starting lineup. He can come in the 8th or 9th inning for defensive purposes. That's it. He can come in and hit in a 10-0 blowout win or blowout loss late in the game. That's it. There's no reason for him to be in the lineup over Brandon Marsh. I don't care who. You could throw Sandy Koufax out there. I am putting Brandon Marsh in my starting lineup every single day. It's pathetic. And this all comes down to Rob Thomson and his micro middle managing, his over analytical, his, not trusting what his eyes tell him. He's been in baseball for 30 plus years. His eyes can't tell him that Pache isn't the right Isn't ready? Isn't ready to be in the lineup? That Bryson Stott does not need to be in the 8-hole of any lineup ever? Like, I know Aaron Nola pitched poorly last night. And we have an Aaron Nola problem. And we're going to get to it in a second. But when Aaron Nola sees that this team can't score runs, where they come up small every single game with runners in scoring position, Aaron Nola's got to think he's got to be perfect. There is a thing that pitchers sometimes put too much pressure and push themselves too hard to be too perfect. And that's when hanging breaking balls get left over the plate. That's when your fastball loses its movement. That's when a curveball just drops over the plate for a home run. That's what happens. Now, someone of Aaron Nola's ilk, someone of Aaron Nola's ability has to be better. We've danced around it in the first 2 weeks of the season. Actually, even to the last week of spring training, when the news broke that no extension with Aaron Nola was going to be made till the end of the season because they were too far apart on numbers. I brought it up. We've danced around the topic a little bit, but Aaron Nola lost a little focus because the contract that he wanted did not get done. And that's affected him. I mean, the guy last night pitched 4 or 5 solid innings. Not great, but solid. And then blew up again. What was it, 5th or 6th inning when he got blown up? That's not good enough. You're an ace. You're a Cy Young candidate type pitcher. You know, last year going into the season, we expected positive regression because last year was 2022, so 2021 was a bad year for Aaron Nola by his standards. We expected some positive regression last year, and he had that. He got better. The numbers got better. But now we're seeing some negative regression from him. Going back to the old form of Aaron Nola, where you don't know if you're going to get 8 innings of shutout ball, which we haven't seen anything like that yet, or we're going to get the innings like last night, where he just completely loses it. Completely loses it. So the question is, what do you do with Aaron Nola now? You know, when Matt Strom is your best starting pitcher, that's a problem. When Matt Strom and Bailey Falter are your best 2 pitchers, that's a problem. Now Zach Wheeler tonight is going to, today I think it's an afternoon game. I think it's a 4 o'clock game today. Anyway, today, Zach Wheeler is going to have to go out there. And he knows the pressure's on him. You can't lose another series at home to the Marlins. He knows he's got to go out there and be perfect tonight. Is he ready? Is his game in form? Is his arm ready to be perfect tonight? Don't say that I'm not. I'm not going to say I'm confident in it. I hope. The Marlins aren't a good team. I hope. But look, teams take on the personality of their manager. And Rob Thomson, the way he's writing this lineup, the way he's managing this club, is the way the fan base is like, it's a long season. We'll figure it out. We're just working on things. No. You don't work on things in the season. You work on them in spring training. I guarantee that no other team is having the lineup turnover every single day like the Phillies are. No team that at least had or has World Series aspirations. Because let's be honest, this team does have those kind of aspirations. Hell, it's so bad offensively and in this lineup right now that they're talking about Bryce Harper is ready to swing and hit against big league pitching now. And the only thing he's not clear to do is slide. And should you bring him back and just tell him not to slide? Just because you need his bat that bad in the lineup right now. But the problem is, if you would keep to a consistent lineup, Edmundo Sosa was 0 for last night. Well, he wasn't in the game the night before. He should be in there. Rob Thomson said, Edmundo Sosa is going to be my third baseman every night. And then the next game, instantly, right back on the bench. Probably because the computer told him to. Like, you gotta give these guys some form of consistency. Trey Turner, leadoff. 2, back to leadoff. 0 for 5 last night. Gotta give these guys consistency. And if you don't, that is where the problems come from. This is where the inconsistencies in the batting approach happen. Bryson Stott. I said it. If you were going to go, I'm going to find the tweet from me from yesterday. Because once I saw it, I'm like, if you wanted those guys outside of Pache, I put together what I would have done. Here it is. I would have built it yesterday. I would not have had Pache in there. It would have been Marsh. But if you wanted Harrison in there, that's fine. I would have left the lineup yesterday. Stott leading off, Turner 2, JT 3, Schwartz 4, Casty 5, Bohm 6, Marsh 7, Harrison 8, Sosa 9. Let me tell you something. That lineup could be exactly the same tonight. And you could have Jake Cave in the 8 hole and Harrison 9. And not Harrison in it. That could be the lineup every single day. It would be the lineup every single day for the next 2 to 4 weeks until Bryce Harper comes back. Now, there is a significant chance. I said July 1st, and I stuck to that, whatnot. But with the way this team is going to free fall, you might need your MVP back sooner rather than later. And his doctor's out in L.A. The Phillies, the first week of May, play the Dodgers in L.A. They'll be out west. It's a good time for him to get checked up and maybe cleared to slide and stuff like that. The Phillies are going to have to rush him back. I hope it doesn't backfire rushing him back. I really do. I mean, but you kind of need him because you need his leadership. You need his fire. You need his personality pushing these guys. And it changes the lineup drastically every single night if you're able to put Bryce Harper back in there. But the thing is, I don't have confidence in Rob Thomson to keep the lineup consistent on a nightly basis. And I don't want to hear that they're working on things. The problem is that the mannerisms of this team are taking on Rob Thompson's mannerism. We're working through things. The fan base saying, it's early. We're just tinkering to figure out what works. There's plenty of teams that aren't tinkering right now to figure out what works. There's plenty of teams just doing just fine. When you go to the clubhouse, we talked about this on the show yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. When you go into the clubhouse and you don't know if your name is going to be in the 1 hole, the 8 hole, or off on a given day, that's a problem. You don't know what the mindset to get ready for the day. Rob Thomson is playing a game, and it's risking a massive backfire. That's a problem. I'll say it again. We're not going to win a World Series with Rob Thomson as our manager. We're just not. Call me negative. Call me not a real fan. I don't want to hear it because I am a bigger fan than most on the Phillies. Hell, my first tattoo was a Phillies tattoo. There's something's got to give. Somebody's got to sit down with Rob Thomson and be like, yo, this is just not the way you run a team. Hang on one second. I heard some barking on my dogs in the other room. We got some dog guests in here right now. Anyway, today, it's Zach Wheeler Day. Let me pull up today's game. It's a 4:05 start time. I knew it was an afternoon game. You got Edwin Cabrera going for the Marlins, a right-handed pitcher. So you should be able to see, the normal guys in the lineup. You're going to see Cave. You're not going to see Pache tonight, and things like that. I might have to wrap this show up. I hear some really bad barking going on in the other room here. Phillies get the win tonight, hopefully. But I've lost all confidence in him. Everybody have a great day. I hear some really bad barking in the other room from our dog guests. I'm going to go check out, make sure no one's getting eaten alive. Everybody have a great day. Trending the AM. I am Phil Stifle. We'll talk to you later, and we'll see you tomorrow. Scotty from Scotty Drowned from Scotty Talks NBA and DSM Media. Join me to talk Sixers, NBA playoffs tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. for Philadelphia Sports Network. I'm Phil Stifle. We'll talk to you soon.